Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with If I Could Only Choose One Work by Composer X, it would have to be work V. Well, Composer X in this particular case is Monteverdi, and work V is an obvious choice, I concede freely. Some of you have said some remarkably nasty things about this series. I was looking at the comments about how strange and ridiculous and stupid the whole thing is. Well, what can I say? The great God Cancresans has decreed that we have to do this, and so do it we must, however much some of you may object. Really, what some of you objected to was the fact that the choices were a little bit quixotic, like choosing, God forbid, a chamber work by Brahms, when you could have, oh my, the German Requiem or a symphony. That's bullshit, frankly. I mean, these are, within the parameters of the exercise, I think pretty good choices. Because we're talking about works that are the most characteristic of the composer in question, not necessarily the most popular, nor necessarily the most important. Sometimes we can do both, and when we can, we will, as here, because the composer is Monteverdi and the work is Orfeo. Now, Orfeo is the best known of anything Monteverdi wrote. I mean, there are several choices. If you're an early music person, there are more choices than if you're not an early music person. But basically, you've got Orfeo, or you've got the Vespers, which has the opening toccata from Orfeo at the beginning anyway, so you could hear more of Orfeo. Or one of the books of madrigals, particularly number 8, the Madrigali Guerrieri ed Amorosi, the madrigals of love and war, which has in it, the lament of the nymph and the combattimento of Tancred and Clorinda and all that really fun stuff. It's got to be something like that. But Orfeo is the obvious choice. And the reason it's the obvious choice is because, quite simply, it's the first opera. The first opera that survives in the repertoire, and the first opera that anybody wrote. And, I mean, I know some people say it was Jacopo Peri's Euridice, which was the same story. But, what's come down to us, and effectively, this is it. This is where the world of opera began. And it's just such a cool thing that you could get in there at the beginning. So the historical importance is certainly there. But the characteristicosity, which is the other issue here, is also there because Monteverdi existed at the cusp of a huge transition in musical aesthetics from the prima practica, as he called it, from the contrapuntal style of Palestrina and the liturgical composers of those people, and the Baroque period, which was not only the emergence of notated larger forms of secular music, like opera and the expanded madrigals, but also the second practice being the invention of the continuo part, that is harmonic accompaniment to single lines of melody. A single song-like melody, which made opera possible. And so Monteverdi was the guy. He was the guy who was at the cusp. And Orfeo is an absolute essay in seconda practica, whatever they call it, second practice, the new style. And what makes it so wonderful and so unique and original and fabulous isn't just the music itself, but the fact that because it was written for a royal occasion, a Gonzaga wedding or something like that in Mantua, we have the score. It's actually written down. And, the instrumentation is written down. Not that it can't sound very different because it isn't that written down. In other words, what Monteverdi would do is for each number, he would say, okay, accompany this one with these instruments. But exactly what those instruments play and when they play is sort of up to the arranger. But at least we know what the color is for each scene. And it's a wonderful series of choruses. And, well, you wouldn't really call them arias. There are a couple fixed numbers. Like, when Orpheus goes to charm the, Hades and Proserpina and, down in the underworld there, he does a thing, he does a number. And there are extended bits of recitative. The music is continuous all the way through, recitation. And the point in those days was to make the words very, very clear. that the poetry was just as important as the music. But of course, the composers always knew that it was the music that was more important than the poetry. But in this case, all of the words are crystal clear, and it's not too long. It's just a beautiful, beautiful work. It survives. It's just as valid today as the day it was written. And what makes it so fascinating, what I think the evil god Cancresans will particularly enjoy, is that if you don't know the earlier styles, if you're coming to it as a person who's listened to normal opera and regular classical music, it sounds very new. It doesn't sound old at all. It's just the opposite. It sounds completely fresh and kind of radical, and it's amazing, actually, how vibrant and relevant the music still sounds, particularly if you don't come from that period, from a knowledge of that period. Obviously, none of us come from that period. So Orfeo is the choice. And I just think it's such a marvelous work. I really do. But more to the point, knowing that it's in the second practice, we can tell the evil god Cancresans, why would you want to eliminate everything from the first practice? Don't we have a right to hear that too? And isn't the idea of the transition from one style to the other something that we should be allowed to follow and enjoy and savor and relish? I think so, and I think that makes a very, very good case. So, my friends, let's go for Orfeo and keep on listening. Take care.